Hi, I'm Greg Schinkel.
Hi, I'm Kirk Langford, General Manager at Unique Training and Development and Frontline Leadership Systems. Today we're asking the question, what are some common challenges that HR has to overcome in working with distribution supervisors in frontline leadership, and how do they overcome those challenges? Greg, I'm excited to ask you some of these questions today. My first question for you in this topic is, what are some of those common challenges that HR has to overcome?
I think the biggest challenge, especially in supporting distribution center supervisors, is really dealing with turnover. And the secondary one that's linked to that is really this issue of how do you balance the focus on operational priorities, hitting the numbers, and then the employee needs.
Okay. Yeah, so you mentioned two great things there. Let's start with the first one, dealing with that high turnover situation. Talk to me a little bit about what that situation presents. What's the problem with high turnover? I mean, you could argue you get a bad employee, and nice thing with high turnover is they're gone. So what's the problem with high turnover?
So many distribution centers have a combination of full-time workers, part-time workers, and even some temporary or agency or contingency workers. And all of them are valuable and helpful because otherwise you wouldn't have them in there. I think that when you think of the turnover, many times both the HR manager and also the operating managers and supervisors come to accept that turnover is just inevitable. And we've noticed that really what causes turnover is when that employee is working and they're basically making the decision, should I continue being employed here or would I be better to go and search for a job somewhere else? And if I'm an agency or contingency worker, I can decide tomorrow not to come back. So we think that supervisors probably underestimate what they could do to help reduce turnover and increase retention. And if you think about that, that means that they'll have fewer stresses and frustrations because their team will be more trained and more capable and therefore more productive.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's really good advice there. So let's then talk about what can HR departments and HR managers do to help deal with this high turnover in distribution centers. What are some things they can do?
So one of the things, of course, is to highlight this idea of the turnover is something that is influenced by the frontline leader and their actions. So HR can help reveal the need and keep putting that in front of the management team, in front of the supervisors, and suggest some very basic things like welcoming the welcoming the new employee to the team, making sure that you call them by name, making sure that you check in with them to see how they're doing, even celebrate any of the little gains they make by making it through their first shift, or maybe their speed is improving, or just that you're happy that they're still there in the team. And I think if you build that emotional connection, that can help. And then that should support operational performance as well.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think sometimes when we think of dealing with an issue as potentially serious and complex as turnover, we think that we have to find the silver bullet and create this maybe complex reward program to try to get people to stay. But I think you're right. A lot of cases, it's a matter of that new employee feeling welcome and feeling that, hey, this is a place where I fit in, where I feel like I belong. And so it's those small acts that, like you said, build a strong emotional connection. And when you build that, people are far less likely to go, I'm out of here, I've disconnected. Okay.
I would say most leadership actions are really a series of small. They're simple, but maybe not easy, or maybe they're easy but not simple. I'm not sure. I think what it is it's easy and simple to do some very basic things to improve turnover. Now, the second thing I think we need to connect to turnover is this idea of operational performance and employee needs. And one of the things we've been cognizant about lately is that a lot of companies focus, of course, on their metrics, their performance numbers, and maybe to the detriment of the employee focus. Right. And I think if you're going to do value added, every person wants to add value. So we need to add economic value. We also need to add human value.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So what are some ways that I think companies tend to be pretty good at the economic value because, of course, that's what's driving the business. What are some ways that companies can do a little bit more of driving that person value, making sure people feel that there's value for them in the company?
So besides the basics that we've already talked about in terms of calling people by name and making them feel part of a group, I actually think that the supervisors and the managers need to do a better job of articulating the value that's created by the individual, what they're doing to help the organization move forward. And not just on a report, but hey, your job is important because when you do it well, it creates this value for the customer or the next department or this next division. Right. And I think a lot of times employees, if they don't know what winning is, and we do talk about that in our frontline leadership program, what they think about is, I just got to put in my 8 hours, my 10 hours, my 12 hours, and that's a win. Well, that isn't a win. And if that's what you think is a win, that's going to make drudgery. Right. So I think what we need is people to connect the value that they're creating to the business conditions, and that's actually not one or the other. That's both working in synergy.
So it sounds like what you're really saying is make sure there's a clear line of sight between what they do in a given day and how that has direct impact on the operational impact of the company. Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, we've discussed a few awesome ideas today, but there's lots more we can share with you through our Frontline Leadership Program, and we would be excited to start a conversation. The best way to do that is to head to our website, uniquedevelopment.com, and contact us. We'd love to chat with you about our on-site, in-person training that can be specific to your organization. We also have a number of public workshops that we do. Those can be either in person or virtually. And of course, we have our Frontline Leadership On-Demand program so that your leaders can take the training that they want at any time that's convenient for them from anywhere they have an internet connection. So we hope to hear from you soon. And until next time, take care.